We're live. We
Yay!
did it.
Good morning.
In the papers. Good morning,
Yeah.
Dudar.
For those of you that are watching on the replay or watching live, Bertie has created some lovely branded papers for us. And if you're on the podcast, come and catch us live when we do it, and you'll get to see our lovely piece of branding. So the business Funsize live. I love it, Bertie. I love it.
We've been renamed.
We've been renamed, and I love today's topic. Like, I'm rubbing my hands. I'm excited. What are we talking about today, Bertie?
So today we're talking about, do you have a curiosity mindset?
Yes.
It's one of the most important things I feel in business. But before we get into that, let's just say that if you are watching today, it would be amazing if you just hit that like button or whatever it is you do on whatever platform you're doing. That helps us greatly. And we will be continuing the conversation today over on Clubhouse. So if you're on Clubhouse, we'll be on there from 10:15 continuing. So the reason we have renamed is because it's no longer just 10 at 10. We are going to be continuing it. And it's also a podcast as well, which will be available to download in the next couple of weeks.
Imminently.
So now we've renamed, but we are still here every Friday, 10 a.m. for 10 minutes of Q&A. Thank you for hitting the heart button, whoever that was. Right.
Yay. So yeah. Right, put in the comments, do you have a curiosity mindset? Are you curious about what a curiosity mindset means? Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, do you know what it is? Because I had to look at Debbie's notes. I'm like, what are you on about today?
What are we talking about? So I talk about this a lot with my clients because I love mindset and thinking about how we think about things. Now we can think about things differently, maybe reframe things, give ourselves the chance to explore. So when I'm talking about a curiosity mindset, it's really the idea of just being curious about what you're doing and almost letting go of the outcome and the end results and enjoying the process or how you're getting there and allowing yourself to maybe fail, maybe not be great at everything because you're testing stuff out. So it's almost like, I'm just testing. I'm being curious. I'm seeing what works. I'm giving it a go. I'm putting stuff out there. I'm kind of testing the market. And I think if we come at this from thinking about being curious, then it takes that pressure off everything having to work the first time. It's like, oh, I'm just curious about this. We're curious about creating this, 10 at 10. We gave it a go. It's expanding into a podcast. We're trying stuff out. We're not thinking it has to be brilliant first time. We need to get loads of people watching. Oh my God, what are the metrics? We're just allowing ourselves to have a little bit of fun and test out how that way works. And I think just coming at it from that point of view gives you so much more freedom than I have to get it right first time. So just thinking I'm curious rather than I'm doing, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is with any business, and both Debbie and I work as business coaches, and I think, Debbie, it might be the same for you. People come to you generally looking for all the answers. So it's like, how do I do this and what do I do? And a lot of the time, my answer is, I don't know, test it. And it's almost giving permission to test those things out. So testing things out is the most important thing that you can be doing in your business. And I, as a rule, I would say that 80% of the stuff that you're trying should be failing, right? As in really going out bold and testing stuff and actually seeing what works and what doesn't. So, testing things out on social media or whatever it is in your business, you should be trying things out, but you can only do that with a curiosity mindset. You can only do that if you're curious about the results and not being afraid of that failure. And actually, a lot of the things are going to fail, but that doesn't mean that you failed as a person or your business has failed because that one thing didn't take. It just means you've learned from that and you'll apply those learnings to something else.
Yeah. And I think for the clients that I work with, this idea of I'm curious, I'm testing, I'm just seeing what works is almost liberating them to give things a go. Where sometimes when people work with me, they're like, well, should I do this thing for 6 weeks or should it be 6 months or should I put it out on here or what should my messaging be? And it's like, just test it out. Just be curious. It doesn't have to be right the first time. And then they're like looking back on all the things they've done in their business and they're like, oh, that's what I've been doing all of this time. I've been testing and I've been curious. But what I've been doing is I've been berating myself because it didn't work. And I've been feeling like a failure. Well, when you reframe that into just testing, just trying it out, you're like, it's okay. It's okay for it not to be right the whole time. And I think, like you said, we should be failing a lot, because as business owners, if we're not doing stuff, if we're not putting stuff out, if we're not pushing what's possible, we're kind of staying in that comfort zone, aren't we? Which isn't really very great. And actually, if you're failing a lot, it means you're pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and you're kind of believing in yourself and putting it out there. And each time we try something out and we test stuff, it builds our resilience. And building having strong resilience in business is key, because, you might get some no's, some things might not work. And actually, if we can build up like our sense of strength and our sense of self and our sense of what we're doing, we're less battered by, I don't know, COVID or things that might happen in our business that we don't have so much control over. So just coming at stuff and just going, I'm just trying it out, just frees you up and liberates you from the end result. Just let go of the end result and just see where it takes you.
Yeah. I think as well, if you've worked in like corporate environments, a lot of the time these decisions are made for you and you're there to fulfill a specific role. And it's almost like your daily work is almost laid out for you. So you just come in, and then it's almost like a production line, and you just start at the beginning and then you finish at the end and then knock off at 5 o'clock. And it's in a lot of the places that I've worked, it's like even questioning and asking why we're actually doing this is almost wrong. It's not the right thing to do.
It's
like,
question.
Just do it. That's your job.
Yeah.
And fortunately now a lot of the companies that I do work with don't have those those rules laid down. It's almost like, you should be curious, you should be asking. Your ideas coming from someone who's at, say, a customer service level are actually really valid, because you're the one that are talking to those customers and actually listening and figuring out what those pain points are. So your ideas should be fed up, and it almost like reverses the hierarchy, the triangle of hierarchy, and making the people that are on the front line are the most important.
Yeah.
So, sorry, go on, Debbie.
Well, I was just thinking, if we're thinking about like, how do we be curious, or who can we look up to? I think Google is one of the best brands for this, because they are constantly adapting and innovating and creating shitty products that they then get rid of. Who remembers Google Hangouts? Boof. Who remembers Google Plus, a social media platform that nobody liked? We've got a Nest in our house and they're not doing it anymore. So we've got a whole radiator system that's going to become obsolete. But what they're doing is they're constantly putting new products out, constantly doing new products, and the things that work, they stick. The things that don't. Google Music. Nobody has Google Music. That's just, we tried it, it's failed. But they're constantly innovating and allowing people that work for them to go, oh, what if we created a software for central heating? Let's give it a go. Oh no, I'm bored with that. I can't be bothered. So Google is a really good business to look for, because they're constantly trying stuff, and sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't. But for giving themselves that flexibility to not be great all the time, they find the diamond in the rough, don't they? And that's the thing. How can you find the diamond in the rough if you're not in there in the weeds, like murking around a little bit? So, if you're like, God, I've got to get it right first time, just be like, let's just be like Google. Google is super successful. Let's just use them as an example of what we could be in our business, because we're never going to know what's possible if we don't try stuff. So be like Google.
Be like Google.
Be like Google.
Yeah. And they're all examples of failures that you just gave, with Google. And not necessarily failures, like, they've generated significant revenue, but things change and things adapt. And that's the whole point. We shouldn't be afraid of trying something because we don't necessarily know how that's going to map out for the next 12 months or 18 months or 5 years. We just go ahead and try it and see how it works. Like I mentioned before, I started sending out daily emails from the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And, I had ideas for like 3 emails. Now I think it's like I sent the 60 seconds yesterday. So still sending daily emails every day. But now I get questions like, oh, I'm thinking about daily emails. Can you help me? And it's like, suddenly now I'm an authority in daily emails, and I've been doing it for 2 months. But 2 months ago, or 2.5 months ago, I had no idea about, how I was going to write about, what my tone of voice would be, whether people would like it, whether people wouldn't. And it's really, you're putting yourself out there to be emailing out every single business contact that has ever subscribed to your list daily with your daily thoughts and daily rants and things like that. And for me, that's worked, but it might not have been. And even though I did commit to the year, if I'd have just got loads of complaints and really done my reputation damage or whatever from the things that I was doing, or I couldn't then continue it, I would have just stopped.
Yeah.
So, but by saying I'm going to do it for at least a year, I had that commitment. I'd said it out loud, and that's an experiment. But it's not finalized. I'm still testing and changing things with it all the time, and just tweaking calls to actions. And do I sell on here or do I not? There's lots and lots of things that that you're constantly testing, and that is the curiosity mindset.
Yeah.
So do I mention this or do I not, or do I just change things here? And if I do, what will be the result? And that's what we're looking for in business. It's not just to accept the status quo. Just because somebody else is doing something doesn't mean that it's going to work for you, or you should copy it and do it in that exact way. It's just being curious and figuring out what works for you, and not being afraid to just put yourself out there and try stuff and see if it works.
And I think, just because we're getting to the end, but I just wanted to mention, like, if you're like quite stuck and you think, oh God, I find it really difficult to step outside of that and be curious, there's little things that you can change every day to kind of build your resilience to being a bit more curious. So maybe think about, like, could you walk in a different direction when you leave your house? Like, could you do things differently? Could you maybe read different magazines? Go to WH Smith's when we can, or whatever. I think it's still open, actually, and just pick up magazines from different industries that you don't work in, kind of trying to get different influences and see how other people do stuff. Not just be like, well, I'm a marketer, so I'm just going to look at what other marketers do. What do people do in the car industry? What are people doing in manufacturing? What are people doing in politics? And then pull all of that together, because the more influences we have, the more we let new things in, the more scope we have for trying stuff out. So just think, like, can I change and tweak some things that I do daily? And you'll realize that it's not the end of the world. And then you can start tweaking the bigger things. So start off small if you're like, I'm really attached to that end result. And just start letting go and get those end results and trying to do things in a slightly different way. Because like, you with your daily emails, you might hit on something and everybody's like, oh my God, Bertie's now the king of daily emails. So if I want to find out about daily emails, and it's not taking you long to get to that status, but you would never have done it if you'd listened to people who said, nobody likes emails.
Exactly.
Emails are the pain of my life. Like, oh, I'm terrified that I'm going to annoy my list. Give it a go. So I think just try doing a little bit different every day, and before you know it, you'll be out there trying. Oh, Portia's just put Clubhouse question. Come and join us over there. We're going to go over to Clubhouse, so come and join us, Portia. We're going to be over there.
Yeah, we'll be there in 2 minutes. We'll be live on Clubhouse.
2 minutes. So yeah, come and join us over on Clubhouse, and then you can ask us questions, and we can have a bit of a conversation about how do we build this curiosity mindset, and what does it mean for our businesses?
Excellent. So that's it. So thank you very much for watching, listening. It's been fantastic, everybody. We'll be over in Clubhouse in about 30 seconds. Great.
2 shakes of a lamb's tail.
And if you're watching, listening on the replays, we're live every Friday, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Debbie's Facebook.
Fabulous.
Yep. See you next week. I'll see you in 2 minutes. Bye.
Bye.